If you're a fan of the 430 movie, you'll love Best Movies Never Made, hosted by myself, Josh Miller.
And Steven Scarlatta,
where we explore some of the greatest movies never made, like E.T. 2,
Johnny Quest,
Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian,
and Halloween 3D.
New episodes available every other Monday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hello, this is not Gene Roddenberry, but if I was around, I would definitely be listening to Inglorious Trexperts, the new podcast from the people who brought you the 430 movie. Check it out, 430movie.com.
Hey, this is Mark A. Altman, and if you're a Star Trek fan and you haven't already picked up the hardcover edition of the 50-Year Mission, it's time for you to go out and get the paperback version of the 50-Year Mission, which is just out in paperback from St. Martin's Press. This is the complete oral history of Star Trek, the first 25 years, from me and Ed Gross. And if you think you know everything there is to know about Star Trek, think again. The 50-Year Mission, out in paperback now. And if you can't read, the audiobook is still available. Hey, are you DAREN DOCHTERMAN from the 430 movie?
Why, yes, I am.
Well, I recognize you because I have the Electric Now app, and I get to see all these great Electric Surge podcasts on video for the first time ever.
I'm delighted. I'm delighted that you came up to me and said hello.
Well, I got to tell you, how can I watch all these incredible podcasts like Inglorious Trexperts, The Best Movies Never Made, and other things?
Well, you can find us on Distro and on the Electric Now app.
And Stirr.
And Stirr, see, I knew you knew it.
I did know, because I'm not really a stranger on the street. I'm Mark A. Altman, your co-host.
Well, maybe I should have been watching these podcasts all along. I would have recognized you.
Join us on Electric Now, currently streaming on Distro TV and Stirr, and coming soon to the Electric Now app.
Back in the 70s and 80s, before the advent of VHS, chances are if you saw a classic movie, it was on the 430 movie. With their famous theme weeks, it was a chance to see movies you'd never seen before and get reacquainted with some old classics. So now, join us for the 430 movie.
Hello, and welcome to Cops and Robbers Week. This is Mark A. Altman with your usual band of crooked cops and Robbie Robertsons.
Anti-heroic robbers.
I don't know. It's your host, okay? It's the host. The hosts are all here.
Yes.
All of us.
I hadn't really thought about that one. I was in the weeds the second I started. So,
You're in the weeds, man.
so Steve Melching, welcome.
You'll never take me alive, see?
Our next dirty rat, DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
Adam 12, see the man.
And the crooked informer, Ashley E. Miller.
Says here you're out of luck.
Great.
And he does his own
Bleeping.
Well, this is Mark A. Altman, and we're thrilled to have you with us on another episode of another week of 430 Movie. This is a good one. It's Cops and Robbers. So what does that mean? What does it mean?
Well, it means, it's one of the...
Cops mean police, I believe.
Yes.
It's a colloquialism.
And robbers are crooks. Not to be confused with burglars.
Cops and crooks. Yeah.
This is the never-ending tension between law and order.
So, of course, our pick will be the McDonald's commercial with the Hamburglar.
The Hamburglar is a very serious criminal.
Yes.
Do they still have the Hamburglar? Is that not politically correct anymore?
Burgle your hams.
It's not politically correct to raccoon, so he has a little mask. And...
I don't know how many of the characters actually exist in the advertisement anymore.
Yeah, because you're loving it.
Ronald, I mean, yeah.
It's just
bad. I was always fond of Mayor
horrific
McCheese.
Ronald.
Mayor McCheese, and what was the copper's name? Big Mac.
Big Mac.
Yeah, Big Mac, and it was
Cop.
Mayor McCheese, who was like, this. You could tell he took bribes. He was like a Rob the Blagojevich kind of guy. I mean, you could just tell.
Blagojevich.
You know, right now, you know, if Mayor McCheese, if Mayor McCheese was still around, he'd be in the Ukraine right now, and he'd be with Rudy Giuliani trying.
McCheese!
So.
Get me McCheese.
That'd be a great movie.
What, McDonald's?
Yeah.
McDonald's
Land.
gang?
He
McDonald's,
ruled
the
McDonald Land with an iron fist. McCheese.
I'd read his Twitter feed.
Fry guys, get out there and get them.
The Fry guys.
I may have to call out my evil grimace on you.
Break
Oh my God, don't send in the grimace. Don't, no.
Not the grimace. Not the grimace.
I'll make you grimace.
What was Grimace supposed to be, man?
He was a monster. He was a monster who really loved McDonald's triple thick shakes.
And in the early days, he had four arms.
He had 4 arms.
4 arms.
What happened?
And they called him the Evil Grimace.
What happened to his 2 arms?
He got eaten.
I lost my arms, Bobby.
In Vietnam.
Lost my arms.
He was so hungry he ate them. I thought they were French fries.
I couldn't stop after the shake.
I kept slurping and slurping.
Oh man, I so want to see this movie. This is awesome.
Oh my God!
Be like the Wild Bunch of fast food.
Yeah.
I mean, we run out of TV series and comic books to adapt. So why not, fast food
coming.
commercials?
It's like the Expendables. You
coming.
get like the
Can we do
Burger
From the
King
producers
and-
of
I was gonna say,
Senor
can we-
Noggles.
Can we do the fast food
Fast Food
expanded
and the Furious?
universe with expanded universe with the Burger King and the
Jack
the
and the
Colonel?
Box.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think
the
it'd be
Colonel.
great. You do Mikey from Life Cereal. He didn't like anything until he met her. Then he saw Jennifer Connelly in Career Opportunities.
Oh my God!
But
Wow. Yeah.
Well, that was a crazy little detour.
Yeah, it was.
well, it's appropriate that we took a detour to a dark alley because we're doing Cops and Robbers.
Damn right we are.
Okay, Cops and Robbers week. So we're going to start as we always do. I should mix it up one week, but not this week. I'm gonna say let's start with Steve Melching.
Okay. Sure.
What's your pick for Monday, Steve Melching?
I'm going to pick
What are we watching?
mine is kind of a straight down the middle pick, but it's one of my very favorite movies of the 90s. It's from 1998, a film directed by Steven Soderbergh called Out of Sight.
Dude.
Yes. Excellent
Well
choice.
played.
I love this movie so much, and I feel like it got some attention when it came out, but not enough. It can never get enough
Can
attention.
never get enough.
Because this is a film that was directed by Soderbergh, who is one of our great directors, and it was written by Scott Frank, based on the Elmore Leonard novel, one of our great novelists. And and listen to this cast. It's George Clooney at the height of his Clooney powers, Jennifer Lopez in a surprising turn, who was
So good in that.
very good in this
So
movie.
very luminous.
Yes.
Her luminosity.
Ving Rhames, Don Cheadle, Steve Zahn, Dennis Farina, Albert Brooks, Michael Keaton, Catherine Keener, Nancy Allen, and Samuel L. Jackson.
An amazing cast.
I mean, how often do you get a cast that great?
Not
together?
often.
It's so funny. I feel like saying they don't make them like that anymore. I feel we saw it like last year. It's like, God, are we old? I mean, how old is that movie now? I feel like we just saw it.
22
Jesus.
years.
Wow. How I love that.
Yeah.
It's 21 years old, that movie?
Yeah, 1998.
That was the second DVD that I bought
Wow.
Yeah,
It's so great.
after Tomorrow Never
And
Dies.
people don't talk about that movie.
I know it's
We do.
forgotten. It's
talking
been
about it
on. It's been back on HBO recently. So if you haven't seen it,
So it's not out of sight.
yes, it's Insight on an HBO. So if you have HBO Max or HBO Go or whatever, or HBO. If they have a subscription to HBO, I think you might still be able to watch it
And
there.
if you
hide
have
out.
the internet, you can actually buy it on Amazon.
Yes,
Or go to iTunes Store.
I have a
You
Blu-ray.
should own it.
I bought a Blu-ray.
I know you
because
do.
it's
I'm
great.
talking about the audience. It's something that belongs in your collection. You don't need to just watch it on cable. You should own it because it's a great...
It's a movie that just fires on all cylinders. I mean, beyond just a terrific director and a great script based on a great book and this wonderful cast, it's got a terrific score. I mean, the music in this movie, between the original music and the source cues, they're just dead on. It's so much fun. This movie, and
From the moment he robs the bank at the beginning.
yeah, So George Clooney plays a bank robber, and who's been in and out of jail, and he escapes. And Jennifer Lopez plays a U.S. Marshal that's on his trail, and it develops into this really interesting romance, and it has one of the great love scenes I've seen in a movie with just a great setting and music.
Intercutting the scene at the dinner in the restaurant with the love scene and how it plays with time and linear narrative. It's really...
the whole structure of the movie plays with the linear narrative. It's kind of told out of sequence in a really interesting way that comes together. And Soderbergh directs it with such a sort of confident, self-assured style. He uses Ann V. Coates edited the film. She was nominated for an Oscar for her editing, as was Scott Frank's screenplay. But he uses these freeze frames periodically through the movie, these brief freeze frames that last like a second or two.
Oh, not that freeze frame.
And they just work to such great
Jay
effect.
Giles reference.
There's maybe 5 or 6 of them in the movie, and they're just come at just the right time, and they just really adds a little special something to it, and
Special
something.
and just the use of the color, in the film, where like that really helps delineate like where and when you are in the story with the sort of the color palette and the cinematography, and and it's got such great dialogue that you would expect from Elmore Leonard and Scott Frank. I can't say enough good things about this movie.
Look, I'm so glad. What a great way to start the week. It's such a magnificent film. And, of course, Michael Keaton reprising his role.
Ray Nicolette from the other movie. Totally blanking on.
The other movie.
And this movie spawned a television series spin-off called Karen Cisco that lasted, I think, just a season.
It was a spin-off of Deep Space Nine.
Right.
Yeah.
And Karen Cisco then appeared on Justified.
That's right.
Also played by Carla Gugino.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Wow. Great.
That's a
Great
good
movie. Great movie. And as Steve said, I just want to echo, if you haven't seen it, this is tune in.
It's one of those movies that if you haven't seen it, you'll be like, where has this movie been all my life? I can't believe this movie came out over 20 years ago.
It's been out of sight. It's always been out of sight.
Yeah, it's really good.
I think it's probably your favorite movie you haven't seen, if you haven't seen it.
Fair.
and Soderbergh's another one of these guys, just the chameleon. He can do anything.
Yeah.
He can do anything.
I thought he was mythical.
Well, but now you picked that, I can't pick the Limey because I was thinking about the Limey, but the fact of the matter is I don't want to have 2 Soderbergh movies.
I picked the Lemony.
And Ocean 11's out.
Although I'm looking for I know, but Ocean's 11 is more caper week,
Right?
Heist week.
Caper, yeah.
I would
Caper
not
week.
use Ocean's caper. It's a rat turd, but I would I would not go with I would not go, Ocean's 13 is ever caper, but I would wait on Ocean's
That's a heist,
11
yeah.
and hold it for Heist week, which we're going to do one of these days because there's so many great heist
Well, there
movies.
goes
And
my
maybe
pick.
we've already done it, but
shoot.
that episode was stolen.
Somebody put together a crew and stole Ashley's movie.
It's funny. Once you have a chance to think about what he said, it's
Someone
really funny.
put up a fake podcast feed, and we didn't know it was stolen.
That's right.
It's all been a recording, and while we've been out heisting.
That 3:30 movie, they got a jump on us. Okay, Mr. Doctorman. The
Well,
doctor is
Mr.
in.
Altman, gentlemen, all the bookmakers out there trying to predict what we're all going to pick
People are saying
are going to be really flummoxed by this one
gobsmacked.
because
Even.
no one would guess what my pick was today.
Anyone want to try
Absolutely no one. You want to try? Nope.
for cops and robbers?
Nope. You're all wrong.
Casino.
No.
That
Although
Keystone
there are
Cop.
cops and robbers in there.
The cops and robbers.
No.
Oh, Bugsy Malone.
Wrong.
Is it up there? Okay.
I'm going to go 2006. Spike Lee.
Oh, that was my pick. God damn it! I didn't think you'd take my pick.
The Inside Man.
Oh,
You do it to me every freaking week.
Denzel Washington.
Why wouldn't we guess that? It's a freaking great movie.
I know. It's great. It's Clive Owen, Jodie Foster, Christopher Plummer. It's really smart, and it's really fun. And it is moderately unpredictable.
It's pretty unpredictable.
Yeah. But
Especially
moderately.
the ending.
Yeah. It's extremely well done and entertaining. And I'm not generally a Spike Lee fan, but this is masterfully done. And what's to be said? It's a complex story about a ostensibly a hostage negotiator who is also it has this masterful heist going on. And it's really intriguing, and anything you say about it could be a spoiler. So
So say
Say
nothing.
nothing.
Say nothing. Say anything. Say nothing.
Say anything not a Cops and Robbers movie, but great.
Well, John Mahoney was crooked. And Say Anything, wasn't he? Remember he was going
That's
to jail
correct.
and
That's
Say
correct.
Anything?
Yeah.
He cheated on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
right. So there you
it
go.
could be.
I think we've already had Say Anything on the show.
Have we?
No.
I believe so. I thought it.
On Ione Sky Week?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be my favorite.
And Vanilla and Ione Sky.
The
Week.
Rachel Papers. Okay. Sorry.
But yeah, so that's my pick. I think it's extremely fun, and Denzel is great in it, and everybody's great in it.
Yeah, wow, man! This week is shaping up to be our best week ever because Out of Sight is amazing. Inside Man is so good. And I am a Spike Lee fan, but you wouldn't know he had it in him.
Yeah.
From like I Love School Days and She Gotta Have It and Do the Right Thing. You would never guess. Malcolm X. I mean, Son of Sam is different kind of movie,
Right.
but Summer Sam actually. Right. But this is, This is just a nail-biting, caper, pressure cooker movie.
It's a big Hollywood movie.
It's a big Hollywood movie, and boy, does he direct the shit out of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so good, and they've done a bunch of direct-to-video sequels, which I've never seen, which I'm sure are awful. But that's the mark of a successful movie if they're doing bad direct-to-video sequels. Just really surprising, and it's another one of those movies I think that just totally catches you by surprise.
It's a surprise and a delight,
and it really holds up. I mean, I've gone back and watched it a couple of times, and it's just a real adult smart movie with a great cast. Clive Owen's terrific, but Christopher Plummer, it's a small role for him, but fantastic, and
was
Jodie
it really
Foster.
Your pick? Was it?
Yeah,
really
it
your
was
pick?
my pick.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I just love the whole thing about. I thought you were going with some esoteric, weird nonsense, Kindergarten Cop or something, and
there goes Ashley's pick.
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden,
damn it.
Yeah, it was my pick. I love Inside Man. I love Inside
That's
Man.
right.
So
Yeah, it's a terrific movie, and I remember just loving it in the theater, and I don't think I've seen it since 2006. But you're reminding me about it now. I remember how much I liked it, and I want to see it again.
There you go.
Yeah, great. That brings us on Wednesday to Ashley Edward Miller. And his picks are usually criminal, so this should be interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll see. How does he work the Empire Strikes Back into this one?
Well,
Do you want me to try?
no.
No.
Because
I think we all could.
yeah, we probably could. Because Lando and
Gas mining business really started to pay off.
yeah.
Lando system.
Look, man, I've been away for far too long. I've been just throwing them right over the plate, right down the middle. I've been staying inside the box. I've been coloring
You've been
inside the
boxed in.
lines.
Don't
I've been
box
boxed
me in.
in.
Don't fence me in.
Don't box me in. You know what? This box can suck it. Forget this box. I'm out of the box. I am leaving the box forever, and I am never looking
You never come back.
Close the box behind.
and that's why my pick is Red Heat. I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding. For
You
the
were
love of
serious.
God, I'm
I
kidding.
thought you were serious.
No, Les Miserables. I'm kidding. Actually, that's not a
Not a bad
pick.
Yeah.
Okay, so my out of the box pick, and I genuinely love this movie. Not everybody has seen it. If you can hunt it down, find it, watch it, you will truly enjoy it, and you will thank me. It is 1987's The Hidden,
Oh yes,
starring Kyle MacLachlan and Michael North.
That's a very Ashley pick for this week. Yeah.
Right? But it's a good movie, man.
Yeah,
like
it is. Jack Shoulder. Yeah.
The premise of this film is Michael Norrie, who you might remember as playing the luckiest man in the world from Flashdance. He spends 90 minutes fending off Jennifer Beals.
I actually remember him playing Dracula on TV. Was he on?
You know what? You're probably
Michael
right.
Norrie?
Yeah.
On Cliffhanger, the TV show.
Yeah. I remember that.
Oh my God, that show! But no, he's really good. A lot of people don't remember that dude, but obviously you do. But he's really good, and he plays a cop who is, chasing after these criminals who basically are just people with no priors, who are engaging these incredibly violent, risky crimes, usually ending in their death or they end up in the hospital. And he ends up teaming up with an FBI agent played by Kyle MacLachlan, who is, for whatever reason, also on this case, and you find out that the reason is that those people who are engaging in these crimes are essentially being possessed by an alien that is a thrill killer. And it is like, and this alien just like loves to be overstimulated. He's basically, I guess, a giant toddler. He loves fast cars. He loves drugs. He loves strippers. He loves the whole night. And Kyle MacLachlan is an alien. He is an extraterrestrial who has come down to Earth, taken over the body of Kyle MacLachlan to hunt. Because why wouldn't you? Right? To hunt this thrill killer down.
Pre-Twin Peaks, Kyle MacLachlan.
Yes. And
Before he was
post-Dune.
FBI.
Post-Dune, pre-Twin Peaks. And he's so great. This movie is so entertaining. It just moves like a bat out of hell. And it's incredibly clever in its conceit. And also, I just have to appreciate it as being a really smart way to economically tell a story like this. Oh, yeah, it's one alien chasing after another, but they look like us, and here's why.
Because they're hidden.
Because they're hidden. The hidden.
It's
and
a real
so
lean,
cool.
mean science fiction movie, kind of in the vein of the first Terminator in that way. It was a very low budget film.
It's a very good comparison.
Shot on location in Los Angeles, and I just rewatched it a few months ago actually, and because it'd been a while since I'd seen it, and I loved it, and I really loved watching what Los Angeles looked like in the late, what was it, 88, 87? 87. What Los Angeles, that was I moved out to LA in 86, so it was filmed like the year I moved out here. And it was so cool seeing all those locations, and it's just such a fun, exciting movie. Clever,
that was also a
clever.
movie that was hard to get for a while. I mean, I had it on Laserdisc, and then Warner Archive put it out a couple months ago on Blu-ray. So
yeah, that's what I bought.
It's now available, and but that's another movie that I think was kind of seminal for genre fans like us, and that a lot of people don't know. And it's really a good movie, and it was amazing that Jack Shoulder hasn't done more. There was a terrible sequel, The Hidden 2.
Right.
I had actually tried to look into the TV rights to adapt that as a TV show, but the chain of title is a mess. But it's a great movie, and if you haven't seen it, we strongly recommend you check it out.
Yeah.
So we have the hidden and out of sight. We have a theme going here.
Yeah.
But it's inside, man.
Yeah.
Inside out,
Hidden inside man.
Inside out.
Out of sight.
My first paying job in Hollywood was working on a movie produced by Gerald Olson, who was the producer of The Hidden. And one night I was working in the production office, and one night he asked me to give him a ride home because his car was in the shop or something. And I had to give this guy, I told him how much I like The Hidden, and I had to give him a ride home in my crappy little Datsun that was falling apart. I felt so embarrassed, and I remember one night in the office he looked me over and he goes, "Steve, you're so wholesome."
And you're like, yes.
I said, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Golly.
That's really funny.
Thank you, Mrs.
You know what I
Cleaver?
thought his pick was going to be? I thought he was going to pick Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to pick Blade Runner. But
Cops and Replicants.
Cops and Replicants week. But that would
Cops and
I was
Robots.
kind of like thinking, what's his weirdo pick going to be?
What are the replicants robbing? They want
Well,
life?
but it
More
doesn't
life?
have to be. They don't. But he's the cop, and then they're the people that he's pursuing.
Yeah.
You know,
Blade
so-
Runner would have been out of the box, but I think in a less sort of a less fun way.
Because I actually would have thought you would have picked RoboCop, but you picked that a couple of weeks ago.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't have been RoboCop, and we know it wouldn't have been RoboCop 2.
No.
So cool. Well, Hidden's a great pick.
Yeah.
Great pick.
Thank you.
Really, this week, man, this is a hell of a week.
It is.
It's up to me to screw it all up, and I will. My first choice, I don't think really qualifies. I was thinking of Point Blank with Lee Marvin, but it's not really a cops and robbers movie. Don't you? Right? I mean, he's a robber, but it's more surreal. It's like it fits in John Boorman week. I don't know if it's really cops and robbers. I picked Manhunter a couple weeks ago for
For Manhunter Week.
because but I mean you picked Inside Man, but it's good. I had another
Your fallback position.
Yeah, that was basically, had been deciding, and I had sort of decided on it as I'm in. But I have no problem, and I think this will keep up the fine quality of the week. And I must say, Friday is going to be difficult. It's because there's so many fantastic choices. But I'm going to go with, and I love this film. And I normally go with older films. I guess this is pretty old now. It's a '90s movie. It's not like it's yesterday. But Usual Suspects from Bryan Singer. I love The Usual Suspects. I remember at the time I was doing a magazine called Sci-Fi Universe for Larry Flint, and across from us was Film Threat. It was a guy, Dominic Griffin, who had been on the Real World, and he had gone to a screening, Polygram, and screened Usual Suspects, and this is all he could talk about. It's the best movie, you're going to see it. It's fantastic. It was like, and he was Irish, and we figured, okay, he has a Gabriel Byrne fixation, whatever. So I was like, okay, so finally go to see Usual Suspects, and it's like, oh my God, Dominic is right about something. This movie is amazing. And it's so well directed by Brian. It's so brilliantly written by Chris McQuarrie. It's surprising. I'd already really enjoyed Kevin Spacey in Wise Guy. He played, he was an arc on Wise Guy. So, it wasn't like I'd never seen Kevin Spacey before. And, as much as we all, in retrospect, have issues with Kevin Spacey, let's look at the performance. And the performance is amazing. Fantastic twist at the end, but that entire ensemble, Kevin Pollak's never been better, especially whenever I watch Miss Maisel and see him going way over the top. It's like, oh my God, he was so good in Usual Suspects. And Peter Green, in a small role, who's terrific, who people may remember from Pulp Fiction. It's just and John Ottman, who not only was the editor, did this wonderful, wonderful score, which if it was a record, I would have worn the grooves out by now because I've listened to that score so many times and absolutely love it. That's a score that's in need of a repressing and a remastering and everything. But I can't say enough good things about Usual Suspects. I think it's, when people talk about, the great films of the 2000s, the masterpieces, that would definitely be on my list. Like we're doing a top 10 movies of the new century. Usual Suspects would easily make that list for me. I think it's a truly brilliant film.
I totally agree. I think it's just incredibly smart, economical storytelling. And what's kind of interesting is how they were not afraid just to kind of cut through the Gordian knots when they appeared. Like apparently in the original draft of this thing, just to get to Redfoot, that cut from I know a guy named Redfoot. And then all of a sudden you're landing in Los Angeles. There was a whole 15-minute digression that they didn't know how to get out of. And I think it was Ottman who said, well, you could just go, and you just go. And they're like, oh, shit, you're right.
And even that location where they meet him for the first time, just bizarre. Like it was like an Asian monastery. I don't remember exactly steps, and it's just so weird. And when Benicio del Toro, we haven't even talked about him.
So surreal, but awesome. And it's I think when we think about Benicio del Toro, that's the performance that we think about. But there was a movie that I think is a product of its time in a very specific way. I'm not sure that movie works in 2019 for one simple reason. When that movie came out, we believed that it took the 2 hours of interrogation of Verbal Kint to get that picture faxed into the police station.
Yeah, right.
Now it would be oh, okay, yeah, you're you, and it would ruin it. But other than that, it completely stands the test of time. It's just fantastically well conceived.
Yeah, it's like the horror movies where it's okay, this wouldn't work if Laurie Strode had a cell phone.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So, wow. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. It's a period piece.
Yeah.
Great movie though.
Cool. It's funny. I was really good friends with Bryan Singer back in film school, and this was his breakout film when it came out, obviously in the early '90s. And there was something, I don't know if Ashley, if you thought this too. I always kind of felt that Kevin Spacey modeled his performance on Brian.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. You know what? That's fascinating.
His posture, the way he carries himself physically in that role, well, without the limp, but there's something about the physicality of his performance that very much reminded me of Brian, at least as he was back then. It just jumped out at me when I saw the movie because it was also fresh at the time,
No,
especially.
that's super fascinating. I hadn't thought about that, but I think you're onto something there. No, you know what? In fact, that movie. Speaking of Brian, like the reason why he was offered X-Men was because of Usual Suspects, which you wouldn't think, except that, and this came from Tom Rothman, that when he saw the Usual Suspects and they were looking for a director for X-Men, he knew that Brian was the right guy because he realized that Brian could handle an ensemble of actors.
Right.
And that's what X-Men needed to be. And that was his entire thinking. And he decided that, whatever other support he needed to make that movie, which is a very different kind of film, he would give him. But the important thing was get those kinds of performances out of those actors. Like, give me a cast like that. And I think, if there's anything we can point to as a fundamental strength of that first X-Men movie, it was the casting and how those actors were directed.
And no one gets short shrift in that movie. And Pete Postlethwaite, we didn't talk about, as
Mr.
Kobayashi. Man, a couple of times when we talk about movies on the show where I just want to go back and watch them.
And you get all the claim.
And this is one of those times where it's just like, I want to go back and watch Inside Man. I want to go back and watch The Hidden. I want to go back and watch.
Years since I've watched this movie, Usual Suspects, and now I watch that again too.
You gotta do it again.
And I don't have the soundtrack to it. I got to find.
Oh, the soundtrack's great.
Yeah.
I think Milan put it out, so it may not be easy to get. Although it's probably you can probably download it, I guess, on iTunes or something.
Yeah.
Although, again, it was a more esoteric label. It may not be readily available, but.
Or you could just call up John Altman.
Yeah.
Or you can write John, right? Can you send over a file on
Probably
Dropbox?
can.
Well, I used to know John a little bit back in the day because John was the editor and what else did he do? He worked on the Brian's first short film. I did sound. I was a location sound recordist. I was running the Nagra, and Brian had written and directed it, and he had Ethan Hawke was starring in it, and John, I think, did the editing, but he was also on sets. I think he might have been the production manager or something, but he's a good guy who obviously has had a tremendous career and just won the Oscar last year for editing Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, no, that's and Altman's just so talented. I mean, that he could do both. Yeah. And apparently, he hated editing. He only wanted to do composing, but he had to, keep editing because he's such a great editor. That
Well,
they
there's
kept
something that
hiring
makes
him.
a lot of sense about that. Is he the only composer that's also an editor? Because there's something that makes a
think
lot of
so.
sense
I
think
about
so.
being able to sort of
Understand tone.
and
I mean, John Williams' editing is terrible. So
avid Final Cut. I can't really. Okay, so that's Thursday. So that brings us to Friday, and I think we can eliminate maybe a couple of things, off the top. Like, to me, Goodfellas probably would have been my pick, except I think it's Gangster Week.
it's
that's
not. There's hardly any cops in that.
American Gangster too. I mean,
I have to speak up just on the off chance that one day Robert Meyer Burnett is on this panel for some reason.
we
To
should
live
have
and
him
die
as a
in
guest
LA.
at
To
some
live and
point.
die in L.A.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's one. That one. Shout out to Rob Burnett.
Yeah, that one goes out to Rob because that's
somewhere
what
out
he
there in
would.
the dark.
I know he would
crying?
say there. It's an amazing sort of portrayal of what we think L.A. is in the mind of crazy people.
Which would be everyone in LA.
And
Not
if you're a Wang
necessarily.
Chung fan, it's
Well,
also
everybody
the movie for
Wang
you.
Chung tonight.
Yeah.
Like it's a terrific Bill Friedkin movie.
Bill Friedkin movie.
French Connection has, obviously we've already
Muppet
recently
to Live
had
and Die in
French
LA.
Connection. Oh my God! Can you see that? The Muppets counterfeiting.
Yeah.
Oh my God! The American Eagle. What was his name?
Sam.
As William Dafoe. In the suspenders making the counterfeit money.
Oh my
Great.
goodness.
one counterfeit $100 bill.
And I could just see, oh my God! The opening scene where he jumps off the bridge, the bridge in Long Beach, the what is it called? The
Vincent Thomas.
The Vincent Thomas. There would be Kermit leaping off.
Should there just be Muppet interpretations of every William Friedkin movie. So it could be like, The Muppet Exorcist.
And Wang Chung could do the Rainbow Connection. Be fantastic. Oh my God! But and that was like those great character actors. What was it? Patricia Charbonneau was it? No, and it was who was in it? Who was the female lead who was terrific? Who's in everything? It's not Virginia Madsen. It's
No.
people yelling out. I can hear them at home going, "How do you not remember this, you losers?"
Yeah, because we're just making this up as we go, except for Steve.
God, I would go see the Muppets to Live and Die in L.A.
100%.
That would be awesome. That would be so cool.
Oh my God.
I mean, there's so many great. Could you just see the car chase where he goes the wrong? That's a brilliant car chase.
Oh,
He goes the wrong way. Fonzie Bear.
Ozzy, bear left. Red frog.
Oh my goodness!
One day we're gonna make one of these things. We're gonna make it.
Someday, and that day may never come. We're gonna do the Muppets Godfather.
Well, we didn't do the 10-ton gorilla of this Cops and Robbers Week. Everyone's screaming, I'm sure, at home. Heat.
Yeah. That
I
was
thought for sure
that was
when you
on
go-
my list.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
it
think
was on
I
my
went.
list, too.
I decided this was going to be my out of the box week, so I didn't go for it. But
Heat is definitely in the box.
Like
Yes.
he is let's put it here for Friday.
Yeah.
It's the one to beat. See
Put
if
a
you
pin
can
in that.
Put a pin in Heat.
got to beat Heat.
Got to beat Heat.
Cobra.
Yeah, Cobra. That's right.
Cobra beats
Because,
Heat.
you
You're
crime
disease
is a
and I'm the
disease.
cure.
He's the cure. We need your partner Steve Crozier in here to sing the praises
Oh my
of Cobra.
God, how funny was that? We talked about Cobra a couple years ago at Comic-Con, and Steve Crozier, who's like this idiot savant, he comes up and when I say idiot, I don't mean idiot. I mean like
You mean an idiot.
No, I mean like
he does 10 minutes on
he
Cobra.
he did like 10 minutes. We were dying on Cobra, just extolling the virtues. This is the year after he talked about how brilliant Jim Cotta is. So we thought, how can you top Jim Cotta? Well, he comes out with this thing on Cobra, which was just brilliant. We were like dying. He should do guest commentary. I should convince him to come in and do commentary on these movies.
Wow.
Marion
We can call it
Cobretti.
Crow's Corner. Crow's Corner.
Crow's Corner. That is one of my favorite character names, though. Marion Cobretti. Crime is a disease. Meet the cure. All right.
So funny. We talk about The Departed. You know what's an underrated movie like Out of Sight? The Bank Job with Jason Statham. Directed by Roger Donaldson. The funny thing about that, it's kind of like everybody knows Statham from these dopey action movies, and The Bank Job was like his elevated movie. It was like, with a real script and a real director and a real movie, and it's really good.
No, this just occurs to me. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I think we talked about that on Western Week, maybe.
We
But
did.
those are
Yeah, you
cops
could
and
argue
robbers.
it.
They're bank robbers, and there's the cops aren't really characterized though in that movie. They're a kind of a faceless.
Who are
force.
those guys?
Who are those guys? Super posse.
And there's no actual, I don't think, robbery in this one. But no, I'm talking about another one.
Okay.
Dog Day Afternoon.
Yes.
I have it on my list.
Is it
Attica.
whole thing?
Attica. But he's robbing a bank.
Robbery?
Yeah, he gets.
He's robbing a
trapped in
bank.
the bank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't get away with it.
Yeah, because
Yeah, he doesn't get away with it.
trying to get the money for his John Cassell's operation, sex change operation.
Okay.
Totally legitimate.
Just not successful.
Just because he failed doesn't mean that he's not. It's not I mean, there's Rafifi, but that's a caper movie, a
That's a
heist
caper
movie.
movie.
6 Degrees of Jason Statham and dopey action movies. The original Fast and the Furious is a cop. I know.
mention those
But the
movies.
good version of that,
Fast
Point Break.
Point Break. Yes.
Yeah, Point Break's
Okay.
good. Point Break's
Damn
good.
right.
Point Break's fun.
There is
Hate to
the
think of
Walter
Point
Hill
Break being
classic, 48 Hours.
48 Hours is terrific,
Okay.
just like Beverly Hills Cop is.
Yeah, 100%.
And I have to say, on a previous show, we said that John Landis didn't do much of note after Twilight Zone. That's actually wrong. He did Coming to America after
that's right. That's
after Twilight Zone. So he did rebound and do some great stuff after that. The Rush Hour movies are very popular.
Mm-hmm.
One thing we didn't mention for Cops and Robbers Week, I mean, obviously it really belongs more on Christmas week, is Die Hard.
Yeah, but
we
Die
did
Hard.
it before, and I don't think we should return to this place again.
And I think Steve would agree more that it's a cops and robbers film.
Yes,
Yeah,
than
a
probably.
Christmas movie.
But
that would have been the ultimate troll if Steve had said, you know what?
no, we wouldn't do that to Steve.
No, I mean for Steve to troll us.
Oh, yeah. How would you do Cops and Robbers Week?
That's
Because
right.
It's not a Christmas film.
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon.
Oh, Lethal Weapon.
Sure.
Lethal Weapon. What do we think? Because L.A. Confidential.
Yes, that was actually on my list.
Yeah.
I mean, is it Neo Noir Week? I don't know. It's kind of Cops and Robbers.
And
It's funny 'cause
if we're going back to the 70s again, there's Serpico.
Sure, of course.
There's a whole bunch of like
Dirty Harry.
yeah.
Yeah, Dirty Harry, actually. Or another one that was on my list was The Gauntlet.
Oh yeah.
What about Bullet?
And
What
Bullet.
about Bullet?
Yeah.
Steve McQueen.
That was a movie. What about Bullet? With Bill Murray and Steve McQueen.
No, we're just listing
Is there,
titles at this point.
is there a Muppets version of Bullet?
Muppet Caper?
The Great
Muppet Caper. Yeah.
Caper movie.
That's
The Great
a Caper
Muppet
movie.
That's a Muppet Caper movie.
I mean, I can't believe we're not doing Die Hard, but we can't. We can't.
can't.
Do it.
We can't
We've
do
done
Die
it.
Hard.
In the heat of the night, they call me Mr. Tibbs.
Yes.
What do they call you, boy? They call me Mr. Tibbs. I mean, it's worth it for that. It's such an important movie. Sidney Poitier is Mr. Tibbs, and I was going to say Carol O'Connor. Of course, not Carol. It's
Right.
Rod Steiger. And Rod Steiger is the
Carol O'Connor, of course,
redneck
was in
there,
the television.
who
Yeah.
learns to work with
As seen in the movies week.
African American.
Well, I would have liked to have
cop
seen
from up
Rod
north.
Steiger in the movie version of All in the Family.
Yeah.
This week on the
Turnabout is
Muppet
fair
Show,
play.
it's Rod Steiger.
5 minutes, Mr. Steiger.
You know, it's a good Cops and Robbers movie. You ever see Day of the Jackal with
Yeah.
Michael Lonsdale? Who's sent to find
original
the
one.
Jackal, Edwin
Yeah.
Fox? Yeah, the original one, which is a really good movie, Day of the Jackal. Fred Zinnemann directed it late in his career, and it's a terrific movie about the jackal who's going to assassinate Charles de Gaulle,
Right.
and had
Not really a robber, but
well,
he's
he's
a
an
robber of
assassin,
life.
but it's about a cop and Michael Lonsdale, and he uses all the tricks of the trade to track down
Sure.
the jackal.
But again, Cops and Robbers Week.
Well, and returning to Fast and the Furious, we skip right over Fast 5, the fifth one, which it's
about family, Steve.
family. No, but that's a movie that is about this crew that's pulling off a robbery.
Scores.
They're
pulling
robbing
off scores.
and the cops, it's The Rock and
That's
his
true.
team down there. You're cross-cutting between the two guys, and it's actually
Now,
Heat?
if we're talking the Muppet
Fast
and
Five.
Furious,
Yeah, now the Muppets Fast Five, that I would see. I'd love to see Kermit jump for the helicopter.
you know what? I find Fast Five very entertaining. As if considering that entire series of movies, the fifth one is actually, I think, very entertaining.
But is
for what it
Miss Piggy Michelle Rodriguez, Jordana Brewster, or Vin Diesel? Which one is Miss Piggy playing? Because we know Kermit is probably
Depends.
what's his name? The
what's his name?
the guy, the lead guy,
dead guy.
the dead guy, the guy who died.
Oh yeah.
Whose name I don't remember.
So then Piggy is Vin Diesel.
So Miss Piggy is Vin Diesel. So then, so who's the Rock? Who's the Rock? Who's the Rock? Fozzie.
Fozzie is the
Fozzie
Rock.
Bear's the Rock. Right. Okay.
Sometimes Muppets don't work with a.
I could see that. I think the Muppets work very well with that. Actually, I think that'd be a much more entertaining movie for me. Probably make more sense.
And I think we kind of gave short shrift to another movie Ashley mentioned, Point Break. I think that's worth a little more discussion because this was a movie that was, it was Catherine Bigelow.
Catherine Bigelow.
Directed this movie. Keanu Reeves in one of his earlier roles.
And Patrick Swayze.
Patrick
the
Swayze.
late
Patrick Swayze. So if they're, Patrick Swayze's the leader of the gang, of bank robbers, and Keanu
The dead
Reeves.
president.
So the FBI is going to teach me to surf.
Yeah.
And he goes
Today,
undercover
sir.
in the surfing parachuting gang.
But no, it's really good. It's like it's very popcorn, but it's kind of like the popcorn action movie version of Donnie Brasco. Yeah. And it's very stylish. It's very cool. It's actually very smart. Catherine Bigelow is obviously an incredibly talented, gifted director.
Oh, she's so good. I wish she would direct more action movies.
No
Because now that
kidding.
she's like won the Oscar, it's like kind of like fallen into this. I got to do an important movie. I'd love her to go back to the days where she's doing Point Break and Strange Days and do Near Dark and just do something completely, or a Star Wars movie. Either way.
But I think that movie had a lot of influence on people of our generation who are kind of in this business. I mean, I meet tons of writers or studio executives who talk about that film as a touchstone for it's something is kind of like Point Break in the sense of, and it's not even about the action, it's about the relationship between Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
If you put a Point Break, I'm going to have to take you down. I'm not.
Yeah, but that's another great example of a great antagonist for a great protagonist.
That was a great antagonist, Robert De Niro. He was a great antagonist.
Point Breakfast.
Point Breakfast. There was Copland with Stallone.
I thought it was Copeland, the story of
Aaron
Copeland.
when he went bad. Touch of Evil, of course. Charlton Heston is the Mexican cop who's.
Yes.
But I think we've talked about that on Noir Week, and recently Hell or High Water was a good little movie.
But yeah, for sure.
I like that movie quite a bit.
Chris Pine, right?
Chris Pine, wonderful. He's wonderful in it.
Yeah, that was a terrific.
And Jeff Bridges, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a movie that kind of he was the cop, right?
I want to look.
Who? Chris? No,
Bridges.
Yeah, right. Jeff Bridges was the cop.
Yeah.
And who was the brother? Who was Chris Pine's brother in that?
Oh gosh. Well, while Ashley's turning to Google, I mean, this was a great little movie from, what was it, 2017, maybe 2018? 16.
It feels recent, but everything feels recent.
It's Ben Foster.
Oh, Ben Foster,
and Jeff
of course.
Bridges.
Yeah.
American Treasure, Jeff Bridges.
Yes, totally.
What we haven't talked about either is the Guy Ritchie Matthew Vaughn collaborations like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch.
Right.
And layer it on Matthew Vaughn's Layer Cake. All wonderful movies, wonderful cops and robbers movies. More about the robbers than the cops.
Right.
Robbers movies. Yeah. No.
I think I would put those more in heist movies.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would
And
agree with
British
that.
heist movies, which are
Oh
a
wow!
separate
I didn't
thing.
realize we're like Netflix now.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing
Yeah.
best British
Based on your
heist
choices,
movies.
you enjoy British heist
Based
movies.
on-
Recommended for you.
which take place outside during winter. Yeah.
Would you like to watch Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels? The Croupier.
Do you like gladiator movies?
Would you like to know more? Movies about Turkish prisons. Midnight Express.
Just completely inappropriate.
Why don't you pick the movie you'd like to see?
I mean, I remember it was like movies nominated for Saturn Awards. That was a real category. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
right on. We said Beverly Hills Cop, right?
Yeah,
We said Beverly Hills Cop.
yeah, which is great.
Banana in the Tailpipe.
And originally written for Sylvester Stallone,
That's
who
right.
then went to do Cobra, which is such a strange life choice.
And you can see it in the first 10 or 15 minutes of Beverly Hills
Right.
Cop,
Yeah.
when he's in Detroit, where it's very serious and sort of edgy, and it's like, is this a
Yeah,
Eddie
and
Murphy
you think,
comedy?
how could Eddie Murphy have been a cop in Detroit?
Although I have to say that just that strange, that cognitive dissonance of seeing him in that environment in that way is really like a cool contrast enhancer for when he shows up.
up in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy in cognitive
And
dissonance.
I think I may have told this story before, but in case people think Beverly Hills Cop is an exaggeration, one year right before July 4th, we were walking through a park in Beverly Hills, and we said, "Oh, I wonder, if tomorrow they can have fireworks." And this cop with a smile on his face, who just overheard us talking, "Not in Beverly Hills, no fireworks in Beverly Hills," and walks off.
Well, okay, Rosewood.
And it was like, oh my God, we're suddenly in Beverly Hills Cop.
Funny.
Yeah, a lot of great choices. A lot of great choices.
Demolition Man.
Yeah. Fits with his hidden very nicely.
Dread.
Movies about cops in the future.
Yeah. Dread is good, by the way.
Judge
You have not
Judge
seen that.
Dredd?
That
Or
is-
Well,
Dredd?
the
Carl
Dredd-
Urban.
Carl Urban.
Carl
Yeah.
Urban.
The Urban Dread.
Yeah,
By the way,
Urban Dread.
is anyone watching The Boys on Amazon?
I have
Yeah,
not watched it
watched all
yet.
of it.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Heard that.
Yeah. What are you guys watching these days?
All of a sudden, it's like I'm flashing back to our very first episode of the show.
What are y'all doing?
I'm just curious.
Oh gosh, well, obviously The Mandalorian, The Crown,
Yeah.
the new season of The Crown on Netflix is terrific. Gosh,
I'm watching the story of the Imagineers.
oh, the Imagineering
How
story
is
on
that?
Disney
I
Plus.
wanna
It's
watch
really
that.
good.
Yeah, I
It's
gotta
really
watch
good
that.
and sad at points. I'm also watching Encore, which is also on Disney
Yeah,
Plus.
you'd mentioned that.
which
yeah.
but never on this show.
Oh.
It's basically old high school musical casts from 20 years ago coming back to do one final performance of their musical, and it's very funny and very sweet.
For me, Mrs. Maisel is back, and I could not possibly be more excited.
Oh, and have you watched any of it yet? It's so much better this season, second season. This first season was amazing.
Yep.
Second season, I don't know what
It
happened.
weirdly turned into a Wes Anderson movie in the middle of the season, and it came back and turned back into
Oh,
Mrs. Maisel.
third season's been so good.
Cool. Like, I haven't seen any of it yet. I'm so excited. Going to start watching tonight.
Oh, you're going to love it.
It is like my, honestly, no kidding. You guys, clearly you know how much I love Star Trek. But Mrs. Maisel is maybe my second or third favorite show of all time.
Really?
I love that show.
I love it,
her,
but
and
yeah, she's great. You're gonna love third season. But yeah, the problem was we got the for your consideration stuff from Amazon, but it only had 6 episodes, so we watched 6, and then it was like, and it hadn't dropped on Amazon yet, so it did, recently. So it's great. It's been great. Yeah, I liked Mindhunter, I think, a little more than you did last season.
Right.
But I agree.
I love season 1.
I love season 1 too.
Yeah.
I just finished catching up on the second season of Barry, which has one of the
Barry's
most
great.
gonzo episodes I've ever seen. The one with the Tai Chi guy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my
Totally.
god, so good.
What is she?
So
amazing.
so good. Anybody watching Watchmen?
Yeah, I love it.
I
Yeah,
haven't been watching Watchmen.
I haven't been watching it.
I started. I haven't been able to finish it
That's
yet.
kind of how I was, but everyone says it's so good, so I got to go back and watch it now.
I don't like being told I have to watch something. That's my
Hey,
problem.
and Mandalorian, I'm really enjoying. I have to say,
You really enjoying The Mandalorian?
I am enjoying the Mandalorian.
Is it really
I am enjoying
Mandalorian to
it.
hug
You know,
and
is it my
kiss?
list of 10 greatest TV shows of all time? No. Am I enjoying it? Yes.
That's good.
Fine line.
That's
you know.
allowed.
Sorry.
No, you must either love or hate.
I know.
So what are we doing on Friday?
So
What are we
Friday,
doing on Friday?
I'm trying to change the subject.
you
because
don't know.
Because there's too many choices.
There's so many choices, so many great choices.
many notes.
I would argue Heat. I mean, I think Michael Mann has dominated the.
I
Oh, we
think
didn't
I
talk
would-
about Miami Vice. The
I'm
Michael
a
Mann,
fiend
Michael
for mojitos.
Michael Mann.
I like that movie a lot. The Michael Mann or the movie Miami Vice.
What about
Michael
Tequila
Mann.
Sunrise?
Tequila Sunrise. Tequila Mockingbird.
You know, I mean, they're trying to bring down Raul Julia, Mel Gibson, and then you have such a great performance by Kurt Russell in that
Yeah.
as the cop who's bringing down his old friend.
Yeah.
Heat has that amazing sequence when they rob the bank downtown.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so great. I mean, such virtuoso filmmaking. Everyone always talks about the De Niro Pacino diner scene. May Kate Mandolini's rest in peace. Best macaroni in town, next to Lola's. Also, may it rest in peace. But I miss Kate Mandolini's where they filmed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great scene, but I think it was mainly notable for the fact that it was the first time Pacino and De Niro had
Yeah,
sat down in a
exactly.
scene together.
It existed outside the movie.
Yeah.
It's not like it's such a great.
But the-
Also
robbery-
filmed in the Bob's Big Boy in Burbank.
That's right. That's right.
The that robbery scene is amazing. It's one of the most effective action scenes ever committed to film. I mean, just because Michael Mann's command of the point of view in that scene is he is so committed. I mean, you've got the characters actually stopping to reload and checking their weapons and all of that other stuff and other things that would just kind of go by for anybody else you might cut away from. But he just uses that to build the tension. And if you haven't seen it, you can find it if you go online. I think there was even some stuff with the documentary, but the North Hollywood shootout. That was partially based on. You kind of see like how that played out in real life. It's just a fascinating bit of filmmaking with really great characters at the center of it. Like it's one of those movies that you can't decide whose side you're on.
Right.
Like The Fugitive. which I think we talked
It's
about.
so
in another
beautifully
podcast.
shot too. I mean, Michael Mann, that signature visual style that he brings to everything. I mean, it's beautiful to look at. And I don't think Heat's a perfect movie by any means. I think parts of it are a mess, but when it works, it works. And it's sort of loosely based on this Michael Mann MOW he did in the early '80s called L.A. Takedown. If you've ever seen it, I know he tried to have it buried. It's like virtually Heat, almost note for note, but Heat is just the better version of it.
Not to be confused with takedown, shakedown, breakdown. You're busted.
But boy, these are tough choices. That's why I'm picking the Great Muppet Caper.
The Muppet Heat.
The Muppet Heat. That would be my pick if it existed anywhere other than our minds.
I'm fine with going along with Heat. For
What do you
that.
think,
No,
Steve?
I think
Heat?
I think Heat.
I
is-
feel your heat.
Okay.
Ooh.
So
Heat is on
the
Friday.
Heat is on. The Heat is not on because we did not pick Beverly Hills Cop.
And now we will not be dancing in the sheets.
Although 48 Hours, people don't realize what a good movie.
Oh my
that is.
God, it's so good. And like the score is good. Like Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy are just perfectly paired
And
against
it
one
has Tasha
another.
Yar in it.
Yeah, Denise Crosby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has a great scene where Eddie Murphy goes into the bar full of rednecks.
Yeah.
And just, it's awesome.
Looking for Billy Bear.
And that chemistry, the buddy cop chemistry between Nick Nolte, and Eddie is so great. I've spoken. It's so great, and just the way we meet Eddie Murphy, to emerge onto the scene singing Roxanne in his jail cell. I think people forget. They think of it as a comedy, but it's also really a great cop movie.
Yeah.
James Remar is just
Yeah.
nasty.
Yeah.
In that. So
There we are.
48 Hours. No.
We have a week.
So Monday,
is Steven Soderbergh's Out of Sight.
Tuesday,
Spike Lee's The Inside Man.
Wednesday,
The Hidden.
Thursday, it's The Usual Suspects. And Friday, we're on the case with Heat.
Heat.
We're coming down with a case of Heat.
Heat stroke.
We're all in heat. Wait, no.
Oh, my God. So what a great week. Wow.
That
One
was
of the
fun.
great weeks, and so much more. We definitely may have to come back and visit this category topic again, or Heist Week, Caper Week. I mean, so many more weeks. Or we should just go on Netflix and copy down all their,
All their suggestions.
all their suggestions. Exactly. So this was great. Thank you for joining us for another week of the 4:30 movie, and thank you to my co-hosts Steve Melching, Darren Docterman, Ashley E. Miller. I'm of course Mark Altman, and we want to thank you, the audience, for joining us here at the 4:30 movie. If you're a fan of this podcast, you may want to check out Electric Surge's other podcasts, like Inglorious Trexperts, the only podcast for Star Trek fans with a life, which has just been on fire lately. It's been so good, hasn't it, Darren?
Yes. On fire.
It's been so
On fuego.
great. I mean, and we've had Ashley for a bunch of episodes, and
And that's the difference.
I mean, yeah, it has. I mean, it just went from being like a 7 to a 10. It's what Ashley brought to it, and the guests have been. We've just been getting great guests, and if you're a Star Trek fan, you should check it out. And
if you're not, you should check it out.
because
Anyway.
like I would recommend like the Tom Perry interview,
anyone.
Yeah.
regardless of you're a Star Trek fan.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. He talks about how Barry Manilow almost got cast in Airplane.
If
I
you
mean,
love
there's so many
film,
great stories.
It could have easily been a 4:30 movie thing, conversation with him that was just.
Yeah, and then speaking of great 4:30 movie, you might really like Best Movies Never Made, which is a terrific show from Steve Scarlatta and Josh Miller, where they talk about great scripts and great projects, movie projects that never saw the light of a projector bulb. So check that out. And you can also watch the video podcast versions of our shows on the Electric Now streaming channel. How do you get that? Well, you can download the Stirr app, Distro TV, or Xumo, soon coming to IMDb TV, and go to the Electric Now channel. And you'll find episodes of 4:30 Movie, Best Movies Never Made, and, of course, Inglorious Trexperts there. So check that out. And if you like our podcast, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. We're going to start reading from some of the best reviews. So if you'd like to hear your name and review read on the air, please give us a shout out on Apple Podcasts. And a very special thanks to our sound master, the master of sound, the man we would give an Oscar to if we could vote, Mr. Bill Ritter. Bill Ritter, Cops and Robbers Week. What's it going to be?
How about Michael Crichton, the great train robbery.
Great train robbery. There is a great one. I thought he was going to say Looker, but no, that was the Great Train Robbery. What a good suggestion.
The only thing Looker robbed was 90 minutes of my time.
No.
That's not true. It's not true. It's going to be on Albert Finney Week. Just
Damn
you wait.
right.
That's right.
And of course, thank you to producer Natalie Mescal. Hey, Natalie, what do you think? What do you think? Cops and Robbers Week. What are you gonna put?
I would do Hell or High Water.
Okay.
Hell or High Water. Okay,
we
that's
go.
another vote for Hell or High Water, which could have easily been our Friday pick. And we also have Zach. How do you pronounce Zach's last name? Raggets, like it sounds.
Yeah.
Like it's written. So I was like afraid I would mispronounce it, but it's Zach Raggets.
Right.
Okay. So
Minion?
Zach Raggets. Ashley, God, you're like Tom Perry. You're like, what was the story Tom Perry was telling us about? Oh, can you give me your opinion? Oh, by the way, can you take my ties to be cleaned? So Zach, what's your pick for Cops and Robbers Week?
Would you take Looper?
Looper.
I think I would save that for time travel week again. Time travel redux. I think there are other weeks, but it could be Cops and Robbers Week.
It's arguably...
You could make that case, but we don't have the time. We don't have the time. How appropriate. We don't have the time to discuss Looper. Okay, thank you, Zach, and thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week on the 4:30 movie. Until then, Eyewitness News starts now.
This week's episode is brought to you by Off-World Colonies, a golden land of opportunity and adventure, and by the Tyrell Corporation, more human than human.
This podcast is a production of the Electric Surge Network,